Welcome everyone, I'm Dale and this is Cinema Historia. Hopeful homesteaders, two tough cowboys, and much needed supplies. This week we're going back to 1952 for an American Western film called Bend of the River, starring James Stewart, Arthur Kennedy, Julie Adams, and Rock Hudson. And this is directed by Anthony Mann. So, where does our story begin this week? Well, our story begins with a wagon train of settlers in 1866. Former border raider Glenn McClintock, played by James Stewart, is guiding a wagon train of settlers to Oregon, where they plan on starting a new life of farming. When Glenn is checking the trail ahead, he rescues Emerson Cole, played by Arthur Kennedy, from being lynched for stealing a horse. Afterwards, Cole recognizes McClintock's name, and McClintock has heard of Cole, a ruthless gunman from Kansas. Being hospitable, Glenn invites Cole back to their camp for a meal, where he is introduced to eligible Laura Bale, played by Julie Adams, a woman who fancies Glenn. That night, their wagon train is attacked by 5 men from the Shoshone tribe, and in the midst, Laura is wounded by an arrow. Glenn and Cole rebel against the Shoshones and prevail, with Cole saving Glenn's life in the process. Back at camp, they comfort Laura, and Cole is introduced to Jeremy Bale, Laura's father, who is also the leader of the settlers. Jeremy has heard of Cole and does not trust him, thinking he has not changed from bad to good, while Glenn, trying to leave his old life behind as well, thinks Jeremy is wrong. The wagon train continues on and reaches Portland, Oregon, where Laura will remain while recovering, and also Cole, who wishes to stay to find gold. Welcoming everyone to the town is Tom Hendricks, owner of the Portland Transportation Supply Company and the river steamer, the River Queen. After making arrangements and paying for supplies they need for the winter, Mr. Hendricks guarantees they will send them by the first week in September. After a big welcome party and meeting professional gambler Trey Wilson, played by Rock Hudson, Glenn and the rest board the River Queen and go ahead to establish a settlement in the wilderness. With their supplies being 6 weeks late, winter fast approaching, and their food running low, Glenn and Jeremy go back to Portland to investigate. In Portland, they find that a sudden gold rush has inflated prices enormously, and find Laura and Cole now working for Hendricks, who intends on selling their supplies to a much higher price to the gold mining camp. So, does Glenn and Jeremy secretly hire some men to steal back their supplies? Has Cole really changed from bad to good? Or is the chase on to reach the settlement before winter? Based on the 1950 novel Bend of the Snake by American writer and historian Bill Gulick, this film was released on January 23, 1952. With a 100% rating from the film critic Rotten Tomatoes, this collaboration was one of 8 films, 5 of them westerns, between James Stewart and director Anthony Mann. Film critic Dennis Schwartz opened his review with one of the greatest westerns ever, and in 2008, Bend of the River was nominated for the American Film Institute's Top 10 Western Films list, a very big honor. And our trivia question this week. I was easy on you last week, but let's see if you can nab this one. Was there something unique done to help promote this film? Was there something unique done to help promote this film? So, a little more history and the answer to our trivia question coming up next. Now, a lot of supplies our settlers required for survival in our film came from mills. And I found a local Ontario mill from that era, making it the subject of this week's history. So, new settlements were being established in the late 1700s in Upper Canada. So to encourage development, a miller would be sent ahead to a designated area, as a farmer would take up land within a day's travel from a grist mill. One of those settlements was Castleton, Ontario, founded by Joseph Abbott Keeler, a merchant who helped build flour and grist mills in the local area. Castleton was first called Piper's Corners because of the creek running through English Hollow, making it the perfect place to power a mill. Keeler's mill in Castleton was said to have been a lumber mill built in 1795 and operated until the lumber supply depleted and believed to have likely been destroyed by fire. The current mill was built around 1820 and was powered by water from the mill pond. At the back of the mill, an extension was built over the water wheel, and water from the pond traveled through a wooden trestle and dropped some 30 feet to the wheel below. The original millstone, which was imported from France, was used until 1906 when the mill was switched to a steel grinder. In 1870, Samuel Purdy bought this mill and started the Purdy Milling Company. A severe drought in the 1930s caused extremely low water levels in the pond, opting Purdy to install a diesel engine imported from England to replace water power. This engine, producing 38 horsepower, was used until the 1950s. The original flour mill ran until 1900 and then switched over to a feed mill, which the Purdy family ran until 1948, later being operated by several other owners. The mill was in jeopardy once more when in 1986 a massive flood from Piper's Creek burst the mill pond dam, taking out the back of the mill along with the original drive wheel. In 2011, the 20-acre site was purchased by its current owner, and the locals hope that this 6,000 square foot, 189-year-old mill landmark will someday be restored to its glory days. And I had a lot of family that came from Castleton, including my mother, and she told me in the early 1940s, when she was a young girl during the wartime, she was allowed to go in and watch the workers. And myself as a young boy, we went to Castleton during the 1960s, and I remember the mill operating, and we used to swim and skate on the pond. Pretty neat. And the answer to our trivia question this week, here's something else unique. Was there something unique done to help promote this film? Yes. To promote this film before it was released, a 5.8 kilometer steamboat race on the Columbia River was staged on January 24th, 1952. The River Queen, which was the towboat Henderson built in 1901, raced the newer steel-hulled steamer called the Portland. The race route was between the city of Portland and Rooster Rock on the Columbia River. James Stewart and other cast members were aboard the Henderson, which won the race but sustained engine damage. And this was reportedly the last steamboat race ever held on the Columbia. Pretty cool. I'd like to give out a big thank you to my new subscribers this week. Thanks for jumping on board. And to everyone else, thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope to see you back next week.